This is Pete with Crunch Time Coaching. I'm here at the Tennis Fantasy Camp. It's absolutely incredible. There's over 150 Grand Slam titles among these guys. And I'm here with Brian Gottfried. Now, when I got off the plane, right away I meet Newcomb, and he puts me on the court with this guy. And he's hitting everything a foot inside the line. It was kind of intimidating hitting with him, and then Newcomb watching me from the background. It's very surreal. And today he's got a tip on the volley because he feels that he's got a different way of instructing it that a lot of people haven't seen before, and he had one of the best volleys out there. He won 3 major doubles titles. It was 2 French Opens, right? And a Wimbledon?
Yeah.
And a Wimbledon. And finals of the French
wooden
Open.
rackets also, we might add, back in the wooden racket era. So.
And the wooden racket. So tell us a little bit what you're going to explain on the volley today.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the volley and the short backswing. People hear that many times from the pros and coaches, you know, don't take the racket back very far. But I want to describe what does not very far mean to that player.
Okay, great. And I understand you got a cool way where we can actually use the net as a visual.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so we'll be right back when we're going to get right on the net. All right, Brian, so show us how we can hit this volley so we can play like you.
Well, what I like to describe, Pete, volley, many players have heard from their coaches, short backswing. But I like to describe it a little bit more specifically than that. I use the net as a visual here. What I'm going to do, what I describe is no backswing at all. And I'll set the player up in front of the net, their hands resting on the net, and then I'll use the net as a visual, as a line. And picture your racket moving in the line of the net. So it just moves straight up like that. So right now, my racket has not gone back at all. And then what I like to talk about is turning my left shoulder. As a right-hander, I just turn my left shoulder. So the racket comes straight up, no movement back, and I turn my left shoulder, and then I've got about a foot to a foot and a half of backswing that has been created just by the turn of the shoulder. Okay, why does that help me? Because if I've got a hard hit ball at me, if that racket comes in a straight line, then I'm playing it right here. I don't have to take the racket back at all. If I've got a slower hit ball to me, I take the racket straight up, and then I'm able to turn that shoulder, and depending on how quickly that ball is hit to me, determines how much that shoulder turns. So that's where I can generate my pace, just with the shoulder turn, not with the racket, not with any kind of a backswing ball.
Oh, very cool. Can you show us some volleys?
Try.
All right, great. We're going to be back with Brian hitting some volleys.
So we're looking at just the standard volley now where I haven't taken the racket back at all. All I've done is turn my shoulder. One more time. Okay, good. And then, so you see that's one where the racket is just, the backswing of the racket is determined just by the shoulder turn. Now a little higher, slower moving ball where I can, a little bit higher, Bill. Okay, where I'm taking a little bit more of a backswing. I've got time, so I can take the shoulder turn a little bit to get a little bit more pace behind it. Now the last one we're going to look at is one with a lot of pace on it, as if you're playing doubles, your partner's serving, you're at the net, and you get a big return hit at you. And if I think if that racket just doesn't go back at all, it moves in a line, I'm able to handle something with pace. More pace. That's it. Okay. So that racket was just right here, reacting to the ball that comes into me. So each time, each different volley is dependent on what type of ball you're receiving.
Brian, thanks for showing us those volleys. And I can honestly say this whole week is an honor for me. And to see guys like you hit the ball up close is pretty cool. And what I noticed about your volley, you know, you were barely moving the hands, but your feet were very active.
Well, the feet and the balance is also what makes the volley. And if you talk to any volleyer that grew up in our era, they'll tell you the same thing. It's 85% feet, very little to do with the racket, and I think that's a little bit different than what most club players would suspect.
Very good. Well, thanks so much. And you guys, you get out there on the court, you practice that little tip at the net, get your feet moving, and then you beat up on your opponent. And you give Brian all the credit, okay?